If being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job, then being a working dad is having two jobs. If a relationship is as it's supposed to be, then a dad is right there next to the mom, changing diapers, doing chores, and losing sleep. If a stay-at-home mom never has a day off, then neither does the dad, he's just switching shifts. What do people think happens when the dad gets home? He sits on his ass in front of the TV and drinks a beer. It's a bit annoying that people seem to think the mom does all the work with the child and around the house. That's not how relationships work. Edit. Okay, going to clear something up. Nowhere did I say what the stay-at-home does is not important. What I did say is that the working spouse still does chores around the house when they get home, they still watch the kid when they get off work, they still contribute to their house because that's what a good partner does. Yes, the stay-at-home does this all day, at varying levels, depending on kid, but to say the dad/working partner don't is ridiculous. I was a full-time stay-at-home dad during the day with two young kids, then worked from 3:30 to midnight. I had troubles finding men's rooms with changing stations, and women would make comments about, "Oh, giving mom the day off today." No bitch, I'm a single fucking father and I take care of my kids like a real man should. Men really get looked down on when it comes to raising kids, and I understand there are many more shitty fathers out there than shitty mothers, but I really hate the stigma attached to men apparently not being able to raise children. I think that this, like most posts on this sub, relies on generalizations. If you're a working dad who expects household chores and childcare to be the mom's responsibility and mostly rests when he gets off work, you have one job. If you're a working dad who gets off work and immediately is busy with childcare and housework, you have the workload of two jobs. If you're a stay-at-home mom who does the bare minimum when it comes to maintaining house and just barely keeps her children from dying, and doesn't mind them as long as they're quiet and watching TV, you're not really qualified to complain about your husband or say you work as hard as him. If you're a stay-at-home mom who is extremely busy constantly taking their children to different activities, maintaining their diets and a clean household and keeping track of their education, yes, you definitely can have the workload of someone with an average job. The same goes for working moms and stay-at-home dads. I can say from my experience with my parents that being a stay-at-home mom can be just as hard as a regular job. My dad has a responsibility to do well at his job and provide for our family, but when he comes home he considers his time free. Weekends and weekdays after 6 he mostly just relaxes and expects any kind of household maintenance to be my mom's job. I still respect him deeply and I couldn't be more grateful to him for letting me live as comfortably as I do. My mom often misses meals as she drives my younger sister and me to various camps and activities and competitions. Our appointments, medical care, etc. was her responsibility to schedule. She doesn't get weekend breaks or end-of-the-day breaks. Even on a school day, if you cook/pack 3 good meals, do dishes, and clean the house, you can barely get an hour's rest before kids come back from school, and then constantly will be calling for you and asking for your help with things. She stays up late because it's the only time she can get to herself. I got a taste of her schedule and realized how much I had underestimated her. It took severe physical consequences from stress and overworking before my parents realized they had to reduce some of her workload and share the burden, at least on weekends. I agree. My sil is a full-time mummy whilst my brother works. I used to live there and I can tell you that she did not have it that bad. Yes, it got stressful and that sucks. But 90% of the time she's on her phone/drinking Red Bull whilst the kids, 2, 3 and 6, are running rampant. The house is a shithole, and once my brother gets back from a 9-hour shift, she talks about how hard her day was and makes him clean up, put the kids to bed, etc. when she's hardly done anything. Then when he wants to sit down, she calls him lazy and says he sits on his ass all day. He works at a bank, whilst she goes through hell. He was always tired, cleaning, eating cold dinners, told off for being late home, not allowed to just relax after work. I sympathize a lot more with him tbh. I've been on disability for 2.5 years. Once I was able to take over all of the house chores, my wife had nothing to do after work. I make breakfast and dinner every day. I packed lunch for my son and my wife if she wanted. I had all the chores done every day before noon. Even with shopping, cleaning, bill pay, and food prep, it never took most of one day. Fortunately, my son has school every day, so that helps. He is also 11. I have a job interview tomorrow to hopefully get off of disability and go back to work. If I get this job, I expect the same level of commitment if she decides to be a stay-at-home parent. Being a full-time worker and a full-time parent is 2 full-time jobs. Holy shit man, this speaks to me. I work from home and it's even worse. My wife thinks because I'm in my office making calls and talking to customers and prospects that I'm just hanging the fuck out. It pisses me off to no end. Yes, her job is not easy, but my god, she chose not to go back to work and then complains all the time about how she never gets to go anywhere while I get nice dinners on my company's dime and shoot shit with customers all the time. The reality is I'm a nervous wreck and every call or meeting is stressful as hell because it means or doesn't mean future well-being for my family. To me, that's the real stressor, not my 4 and 2-year-old crying and breaking things all day. And of course I get stuck with night duties, baths, putting kids to bed, and the frequent midday "can you just watch the kids for a bit" sessions. My BIL is a stay-at-home dad. He thinks that his job is to only care for their 15-month-old son. That's it. He does zero housework and he's always on his PlayStation. The only productive thing he does is going to the gym while his son is at the gym's daycare. He constantly complains about how difficult his life is and how it's so much harder than a real job. Their house is always so messy and they don't even have enough furniture because their life is too hectic to go furniture shopping. The whole thing is a joke to me, because both my husband and I work full-time and have a baby, so I understand that taking care of a baby full-time is hard, but only because it's so mind-numbing. What's hard is coming home from an 8-hour workday and be on parent duty for the rest of the day. Been unemployed for a month with 2 kids 2/6. It is a bitch to deal with 2 kids all day long and clean up after them and feed them. However, it is much better than working a job. Being a stay-at-home dad is much better than being a working dad. My dad worked full-time but came home and cooked on the grill several nights a week and mowed the grass and kept the cars running as well as upkeep of everything in the house. Honestly, my mom was lazy. She stayed in bed until after we all left for school/work. We all fixed our own breakfast and packed our own lunch. She drank every night. It was not fun, but she was spoiled rotten and didn't have to do much, except bitch enough to keep us all on edge so we couldn't really ever see what was truly going on. If I'm working and my wife stays at home, I'm doing zero housework. If my wife is working and I stay home, you can bet the house will be spotless and dinner will be ready when she gets home. I can't even vote on this one because the terms are too loosely defined. What does each partner do? To me, it was always that the stay-at-home partner, SAHP, ran most, if not all, of the household. All the cooking, all the cleaning, majority of child rearing, household finances, etc. So when the partner working away from home comes back, he/she is done for the day other than playing with the kids. But that's just always been my interpretation. I think my vote would depend on what each partner contributes to the relationship. I had a teacher for a class called Emotional Intelligence, which she made more like gender studies than EI. In one of the classes she brought up the wage gap and how women clearly work more hours a day, because of all the hours they spend at home being a mother. So she would count 8 hours a day x 7 days, including the average hours of a part-time job that she assumed the mother would have, and put that against a full-time job of that of a man, compared the wages to hours, and claimed that the wage gap isn't nearly as accurate as the reality, because women spend so many more hours working. Clearly, I was baffled. Edit, some grammar errors and additional info. Deciding not to have kids was easily the best decision me and my so ever agreed on. That's not how relationships work. It's how some relationships work, though. I kinda see it through slanted glasses of my own experience, but every stay-at-home mom I've met has either been borderline, or just flat-out white trash that doesn't actually do a very little to raise the kids or keep up the house. I can't think that this is unpopular since I see a post about the job of Sam's being easy at least twice a week. Some moms do it better than others. It also doesn't need to be about gender because there are more dads staying home. Some are doing great, but there are the stories of some who barely do more than change diapers and play video games. So do stay-at-home moms though, they don't stop doing anything just because the dad got home. They both keep working until they go to bed, or at least until the child goes to bed. I'm a Sam. My husband works 50 hours a week at a copper mine. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I don't expect him to cook, clean, do laundry. On his time off, he helps with the kids and helps around the house on his days off. I understand he busts his ass working, and frankly it'd be shitty if I expected him to do half the work around the house, when I'm here all day, every day. Like it's an understanding we are a partnership. He's the sole monetary provider, so I can stay home and raise the kids. I'm not bitter about, I knew what I was getting into, and frankly it's not that hard to do. I'm actually really thankful that I do get to stay home with my kids. I miss adult interaction every day, but I'd rather be home, than working with the public again, while a stranger watches my kids. I guess I'm probably a weirdo for liking being a homemaker, because women I know who are homemakers think it's some really awful thing. What do people think happens when the dad gets home? He sits on his ass in front of the TV and drinks a beer? They think this because they've been watching way too much TV and are believing dumb fat lazy dad XD tropes. My dad came home from work every day and still cooked/cleaned and stuff. He didn't sit on his ass.